The Galactic Council chamber on Irelium's spire was silent. Hundreds of delegates from dozens of species stared at the human ambassador, Elias Ward, who stood alone at the central podium. His posture was calm, almost too calm. His hands rested lightly on the smooth black surface in front of him, and his eyes did not waver. "You have violated the Threx Dominion's territory," a booming voice accused. Commander Krail Veth, the supreme commander of the Threx, loomed on a large hollow screen behind him, his scaled face twisted in anger. "Your mining fleets trespass where none of your kind are allowed. This is your first and final warning." The room laughed. The other council species chuckled at humanity's audacity. Humans were small, soft, and slow compared to the Threx, a species engineered for war. Their fleets were vast, their soldiers perfect killers, and their reach covered hundreds of systems. Everyone assumed humanity would cower. Elias Ward's voice was steady. "We do not seek war. Humanity respects treaties and borders, but we will not abandon our citizens without cause. We hope you understand the cost of aggression."
The Supreme Commander's eyes narrowed.
"Cost? You threaten us, human? You will learn your place." That was all it took. Within hours, the Threx launched a strike. Haven 1-2, a remote human colony at the edge of a disputed system, became the first target. The humans there had no time to evacuate. The skies of the colony burned as plasma streaked across the atmosphere. Buildings crumbled, and the air filled with fire and smoke. But Haven 1-2 was no ordinary colony. Among the civilians were veterans of old wars, engineers, and scientists who had long prepared for emergencies. Mining drones were armed as weapons. Agricultural robots were reprogrammed to scout and defend. The humans adapted quickly, turning the small world into a fortress of improvisation. Elias Ward watched the news feeds with grim eyes. Each strike the Threx made, humanity found a way to survive and fight back. The Threx assumed their enemies would panic, that fear would spread across Earth. But instead, it inspired unity. In a hidden command center under the mountains of Haven 1-2, Colonel Tara Wren directed the colony's defense. "They expect us to break," she said to her officers. "Let's show them why humans are never easy prey." Civilian engineers fired makeshift weapons from the colony's surface, striking with precision that surprised the Threx pilots. Communication channels between Earth and Haven 1-2 buzzed with frantic orders, yet every soldier, every citizen, moved with a clarity that came from knowing the stakes. The Threx were ruthless, efficient, and powerful. Yet, for the first time in centuries, they faced resistance that could not be crushed by sheer force. Every attack that humans survived became a lesson. Every loss taught them a new way to strike back. The emergency transmission reached Earth. A simple, chilling message scrolled across every major communication channel. They've declared war. On Earth, there was no panic. Humanity had faced threats before. They had survived worse odds. But even as cities prepared and fleets readied, a quiet determination spread across the planet. The galaxy assumed humans were weak, soft, and compliant. They had no idea what was coming. Elias Ward stood once more in the council chamber, recording his message for the Threx. His voice was calm, almost kind. "You have mistaken our restraint for fear. You have made your choice." The chamber remained silent. The council species stared, some in shock, some in fear. Somewhere, deep in the Threx command network, Krail Veth scowled. Humanity was supposed to be an easy target. Instead, they had declared a challenge, and the galaxy would never see the same humans again. Earth was quiet. The cities buzzed with preparation, but there was no panic. Humanity had faced challenges before, and they had learned one thing. Survival depended on brains, not just firepower. The United Earth Defense Fleet activated Protocol Black Horizon, a strategy designed for moments when humans were outmatched but not defeated. Admiral Mira Solano stood on the bridge of the flagship Dauntless. Her eyes scanned the star maps, her fingers tracing paths through asteroid fields and nebulae. "The Threx expect us to run," she said quietly. "Then let's make them chase ghosts." And that was exactly what they did. Instead of charging at the Threx armada, human fleets scattered. Small frigates slipped into asteroid belts, hiding among jagged rocks. Ships disappeared into nebula clouds, their engines muffled by interference fields. Communication signals were jammed, and supply lines became traps. The Threx, used to absolute domination, found themselves confused, frustrated, and enraged. In the shadows of a collapsing moon orbiting Haven, 1-2, Colonel Tara Wren coordinated guerrilla strikes. Mining lasers, once used for excavation, now pierced enemy hulls. Agricultural drones scouted enemy positions, relaying real-time data back to command. Civilians worked alongside soldiers, improvising weapons and tactics. "They think they can scare us," Tara said, watching a Threx destroyer collapse after a swarm of small human ships attacked its weak points. "Let's show them what humans really do." Meanwhile, on Earth, scientists worked around the clock. Engineers recalibrated faster-than-light drives, creating unpredictable jump coordinates. Tactical analysts fed Admiral Solano information from every corner of the galaxy. Every attack, every retreat, every maneuver was calculated to stretch the Threx fleet thin, forcing them into mistakes. The Threx were confident, arrogant, and deadly. They had conquered countless species before humans, yet every battle taught the humans something new, and every new tactic caused the Threx to stumble. They had not faced an enemy that could learn so fast, adapt so quickly, and strike back with creativity. The small victories of Haven, 1-2, spread across the galaxy. Newsfeeds showed human civilians repelling Threx boarding parties, engineers disarming planetary weapons, and small ships disabling massive warships. Other species watched in awe and disbelief. How could a species so small, so underestimated, turn the tide in ways no one expected? In a secret communication, Admiral Solano sent a direct message to Commander Creal Veth. "You misjudge us. You assumed restraint meant fear."
It does not. It means we are ready.
The message echoed across the Threx fleet. For the first time, the Supreme Commander hesitated. Humans were unpredictable, their tactics impossible to read, and that unpredictability was deadly. Back on Haven, 1-2, civilians built barricades from debris and repurposed weapons. Soldiers moved like shadows, striking with precision before disappearing into the night. Children who had once studied history now memorized the weak points of Threx armor. Every human, trained or not, became part of a larger strategy. The galaxy began to whisper. Humans, once seen as soft and fragile, were something else entirely. They did not rely on brute force or numbers. They relied on ingenuity, courage, and an unshakable will to survive. And the Threx were beginning to understand a terrifying truth. This war would not be easy. In the darkness of space, small human ships darted from one hiding place to another. Explosions lit up the void as Threx vessels fell, one after another, to attacks no one had predicted. Admiral Solano smiled, calm as ever. The Threx had declared war, but humans were answering, on their own terms. The part ends with Earth's broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. A simple statement for friend and foe alike.
You thought we would bow?
You were wrong. Humanity fights. The galaxy trembled as the Threx Dominion escalated their attacks. Entire systems fell under their shadow. Planets stripped of resources, cities flattened, and colonies burned. They unleashed genetically engineered shock troops, designed to crush human resistance quickly and efficiently. The Threx believed that speed and terror would finally break humanity. But humans had already changed the rules of battle. On the barren surface of Karsus Reach, human soldiers dug trenches, modified vehicles, and set traps using knowledge borrowed from engineers, miners, and farmers. Colonists who once harvested crops now manned anti-armor turrets. Drones once used for scouting or delivery became stealth reconnaissance units. Every human became part of a living, breathing machine of resistance. Admiral Mira Solano hovered above the battlefield in her command ship, watching the Threx fleet approach. "They rely on power and fear," she said to her officers. "We rely on adaptation. That was humanity's greatest weapon, their unpredictability. No single doctrine, no single strategy bound them. Soldiers from dozens of backgrounds, planets, and cultures fought as one unit. Yet each made independent decisions in the chaos of battle, where the Threks were precise but rigid. Humans were fluid and unrelenting. Commander Tara Wren led a group of ground units into a canyon filled with mining machinery. "Use the terrain," she ordered. The soldiers transformed the metal into improvised weapons. Mining lasers were angled to ambush Threx tanks. Explosives were rigged to collapse tunnels onto enemy forces. When the Threx advanced, expecting a quick victory, they found themselves trapped and attacked from every direction. In space, small human frigates performed impossible maneuvers, darting between Threx capital ships. Using precise timing and coordination, they disabled engines, destroyed weapon systems, and disappeared before the Threx could respond. Every encounter taught the humans something new. Every mistake the Threx made was exploited immediately. The Threx Supreme Commander, Krau Veth, watched in disbelief. "They learn too fast," he muttered. "They are unpredictable. They are adapting." The final human trap was set near a dying star. Admiral Solano's plan was audacious. She lured the Threx fleet into the unstable orbit of the star, guiding them along paths designed to trigger a massive gravitational surge. Sensors calculated every possible outcome. Every human ship had a role. Every civilian-operated drone had a target. The Threx pursued, confident in their numbers and strength. Then, at the perfect moment, the humans triggered the plan. The star's outer layer collapsed in a controlled implosion, generating a wave of energy that crippled the Threx fleet. Massive warships were destroyed, smaller ones disabled. Hundreds of Threx soldiers were stranded on drifting wrecks. The survivors of Karsus Reach cheered. They had done the impossible. They had survived where none expected them to, and they had inflicted a loss no one in the galaxy could ignore. Commander Krau Veth realized the terrifying truth. Humans were not the deadliest because of weapons or numbers. They were deadliest because of their mind, their adaptability, creativity, and determination. Humans did not follow orders blindly. They learned. They improved. They fought to protect, not to dominate. Admiral Solano sent a final calm message across the galaxy. "You assumed victory is only measured by power. You were wrong. Power without adaptation is weakness, and we will never be weak." On Haven. 1. 2. Civilians rebuilt defenses, repaired ships, and shared knowledge. The small colony, once a target, had become a symbol. Other oppressed species began to watch humanity with awe and hope. For the first time, the Threx were unsure of themselves. They had fought species after species, all of which crumbled under terror and brute force. But humanity had survived. Humanity had adapted. Humanity had shown that the deadliest species in the galaxy was not the one engineered for war. It was the one that evolved through it. The galaxy was quiet in the aftermath of Karsus Reach. Entire Threx fleets had been crippled. Systems that once trembled under their shadow now whispered the impossible. Humans could fight back and win. Admiral Mira Solano stood aboard the Dauntless, staring at the starfield beyond. Humanity had not sought war. They had not wanted to fight the deadliest species in the galaxy. Yet here they were, standing at the edge of Threx space, stronger, smarter, and more united than ever. Commander Tara Wren reviewed reports from the colonies. Every human settlement, every fleet, had contributed to the victory. Civilians had fought alongside soldiers. Engineers had turned mundane machinery into weapons of survival. The galaxy had underestimated them, and that mistake had cost the Threx dearly. But the war was not over. The Threx Supreme Commander, Krau Veth, still controlled portions of his empire. Entire populations were enslaved. The Dominion still threatened chaos. Humanity could have crushed them entirely, eradicated the Threx and claimed victory, but that was not their way. Instead, Ambassador Elias Ward stepped forward. Humanity broadcast a message to every corner of the galaxy. Not a threat, but a challenge. "We fight not to destroy. We fight to protect. You have been shown mercy. The choice is yours.
Surprisingly, the message reached the hearts of many oppressed species. They had suffered under the Threx for centuries.
Now they joined humanity quietly, offering intelligence, supplies, and even small fleets. For the first time, the Dominion faced rebellion not just from humans, but from within its own territories. The Threx were unprepared. The species bred for war could not comprehend the power of alliance, of unity forged through respect rather than fear. Systems that had once obeyed only Krail Veth began to rise up. Ships turned on one another. Cities rebelled, and everywhere humans moved carefully, guiding the oppressed without unnecessary bloodshed. Krail Veth requested a meeting. He expected demands, humiliation, or the end of his empire. Instead, he was met with conditions. All enslaved species were freed. War breeding programs were dismantled. The Dominion would operate under galactic law and oversight. It was a peace offered not from weakness, but from strength. Humans had proven that mercy was the ultimate power. Krail Veth, proud and ruthless, realized the truth. He had misjudged humans completely. In the Grand Council chamber of Aurelium Spire, Ambassador Ward stood once more. The room was packed. Species that had laughed at humanity now watched in silence. He raised his hand and addressed the council. You called us weak. You assumed restraint meant fear. You were wrong. Humans survive, adapt, and protect. And we will continue to do so. No one laughed, not the council, not the Threx, not even the spectators from distant worlds. Some whispered among themselves, humanity had done more than win a war. They had changed the rules of the galaxy. Survival no longer depended solely on power, intimidation, or genetic perfection. Intelligence, courage, adaptability, and the will to protect life had proven mightier than fear itself. The final transmission from Krail Veth was simple, almost respectful. You have done what none could before.
We misjudged you. The galaxy will remember.
And humanity had. From the smallest colonies to the largest cities, humans looked at the stars differently. They had faced the deadliest species in the galaxy and survived. They had stood together, adapted, and defended, not just themselves, but countless others. They were no longer seen as weak. They were seen as a force unlike any other, the species that could not be broken. And somewhere, in the quiet corner of the council chamber, one elder finally spoke. Well done. You've now declared war on the deadliest species in the galaxy. This time, the words were said with awe, with respect, with recognition that humanity had earned their place not by conquest, but by surviving, adapting, and protecting. The galaxy would never forget.